Okay, it being 8:30, I'd like to call to order the meeting, Public Health and Community Service, March 27th. Could I get a roll call, please?
Hendricks.
Here.
Prager. Here. Van Hoff.
Present.
Sullivan.
Here.
Shorten.
Here.
Altoff.
Here.
Von Bergen.
Here. Could I get a motion to let Member Shorten in, please? Ms. Van Hoff, seconded by Mr. Sullivan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Welcome, Mr. Shorten. Thank you for joining us. Next up, could I get a motion to approve the February 27 minutes, please?
So moved.
Ms.
I'll
Altoff,
second.
Mr. Hendricks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against, motion carries. Thank you. Public comments? None. All right, so then we'll move on to member comments. Ms. Altoff.
I just want to draw everybody's attention to the memo that was sent all of you last night from Melissa Adamson, who is our Director of Public Health. We have been notified by the state of Illinois that some of the federal grant dollars that flow through the state to public health departments are in jeopardy of being pulled. Preliminary review would indicate this isn't going to impact our budget because we haven't hired any individuals to administer or associated with these grants, but we're not sure yet because we haven't gotten the full list, but just heads up.
Thank you.
Question?
Can I ask? So that funding, is that funding that flows to the state and then they dole it out?
That's most public health grants are.
But is it already like a specific amount allocated towards us?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
Great distinction, thank you.
Any other member comments? Okay. Then we will move on to new business, and we have an interview for the Lake in the Hills Sanitary District. Jessica Reed, if you would like to join us up here at the table.
Right here.
Thank you for coming in. If you could take a couple minutes and tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest in serving.
So my name is Jessica Reed. I have lived in Huntley for almost 8 years now, I think. And I've been on the board of the Sanitary District for the past 6 years. I'm currently the president of the board. I've been the longest serving trustee there currently, not forever. My day job, I'm a prevention specialist trainer. So I train substance misuse prevention specialists throughout the state of Illinois, which I really enjoy. I really love the prevention field and making sure that we can catch problems of all sorts before they start or become an issue. So my real passion is the youth and making sure that they live healthy lives and have healthy communities. The Sanitary District, I have always been interested in public health, and I got my master's degree in 2021 for public health, and so it ties in really well with the Sanitary District. When I was doing all my classes, I was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. And so I want to make sure that my community has a fair representation, and in the past, the Sanitary District has had some issues with transparency since I've joined. Not just because of me, but the board that was there when I was joined has done a really good job of making sure that everything's transparent, everything is good for the residents. We're dedicated to keeping the fees low as we can and keeping taxes down, even with all the rising costs of everything.
I think that memo you just
If you have any other questions, I can answer.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you again for coming in and your dedication to the Sanitary District. Are there any members? Ms. Altoff.
Very impressive resume, so your application. But elaborate a little bit for me, what type of communication you have with the residents that you serve, right? The people that, and then the municipalities or other units of local government that also, would be served by the Sanitary District.
So Lake in the Hills Sanitary District is kind of unique in that it's not just serving Lake in the Hills, it serves basically my neighborhood of Huntley, and then there's one section of Crystal Lake as well. And so in the past couple of years that I've been there, I was able to meet with I'm trying to think, sorry. So in the last year, we met with Lake in the Hills Village Hall because we were trying to get a seawall built to protect the sewer line that was half immersed in the lake. And so we were able to reach out to them and work with them to come to agreement. And then a couple years ago with Huntley, we were trying to get a meter installed on the backwash flow, and I was able to help with that, I guess.
Well, I guess what I'm really asking is, do you have a regular way of communicating with all of those other units of local government that you basically, you're serving their constituents as well? So is there like a regular report? Do you talk to them regularly? That's what I'm asking.
I don't personally talk to them regularly. I know that we have intergovernmental agreements with Huntley and Crystal Lake to do like water shutoffs and stuff, so I believe the district manager talks to them somewhat regularly, and we try and have good relationships with everyone so that we can keep up to date on the public works and any construction that's going on, anything that's to do with the waters or the sewers.
And then last question is, we've been really focusing in on ensuring that our meetings are well attended. So do you have an issue with any of your members not attending the meetings as regularly as they should be? And is there anything we need to be aware of?
No, we've all been good except if we're sick, or I think maybe once or twice someone is missed, but it's not a regular occurrence.
Great.
And it's hard because we're a three-person board, so we have to have at least 2 people there for a quorum. And so I think there was one meeting in either November or December that we were all sick for, and we rescheduled that.
During that time of
Yes,
year.
it was great. But besides that, we've all been regularly attending.
Thank you.
Any questions? Mr. Hendricks?
I just have one. Do you get, excuse me, do you have any anticipation of like future, I guess, challenges or struggles that the district might have? Or is right now in your assessment everything just kind of humming along nicely?
So the district manager and the staff have done a fantastic job of keeping everything running smoothly, solving problems. They're working to like line all the sewer lines in the area so that way they can reduce the INI, the inflow, and something, I can't remember exactly. And so they're doing a lot of preventative measures. I think the biggest challenge is that all the costs keep increasing. The sludge hauling has increased, I think it was like by 40% or something in the last couple of years, or last year. So it's ridiculously expensive that even though we're kind of adjusting our processes, we're still spending more money on that. And like I said, we want to keep we haven't raised the sewer rates in years. We were able to last year, for 2024, abate 30% of the taxes. I don't know if we'll be able to do that again this year with the costs, but it is a nice, at least a year break for everyone, so.
No, I think it's good. It answered exactly what I wanted to know. So thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for coming in. Our next item is for deliberation. So you're more than welcome to stay, or if you need to get on with your day.
I'm not staying for this, and then I'll probably head out.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Altoff.
I'll just make a motion to appoint Jessica Reed to the Lake in the Hills Sanitary District to serve until April 30th, 2028.
Okay, second.
Second.
Mr. Hendricks.
Krieger.
Yes.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Vanhoff.
Yes.
Shorten.
Yes.
Altough.
Yes.
Von Bergen.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have one item for the routine consent agenda. Would anybody I guess I'll just take a motion first.
I'll make that motion.
All right, Ms. Altough, seconded by Ms. Van Hoff. So we will discuss.
Yeah.
And Adam is on remotely. And then Sarah, would you like to join us since, yeah.
Just kind of explain to me the circumstances of the extension and how this all happened and what's going on and the vacancies, and just so we have that documented.
So this actually started back in March of 2021. And Joe Davis was brought on as a temp. And then in April of 2022, he was made an independent contractor. And he was an independent contractor for almost a year. And then HR kind of stepped in and said, he needs to be an employee. You know, you're setting his hours. There are certain things you can't do with an independent contractor. So that happened in February of 2023. But he was made a full-time employee, but he was given a term. So that term is set to expire on April 18th of this year. So he primarily had been responsible for HMIS. That migration to a new system happened in January of this year. But along the way, he's taken on additional responsibilities, including the continuum of care. He's been instrumental in a lot of the data for the consolidated plan, which of course is a requirement of HUD. He also completed the analysis of impediments to fair housing for us, so he does a lot of, helps us a lot with our data. And so we are just asking to extend him through November 30th, and then we would be making him a full-time employee and be changing the senior CD specialist role, which I believe is 11E, that's never been filled, to accommodate the AD for him to come on full-time. So hopefully that gives a little bit of clarification of everything that's happened.
Let's be clear, we're not voting on reclassifying that position now. That's a maybe for next budget year.
Correct.
Board hasn't decided to change the position, nor has the employee decided to take it. So
Correct.
That's a maybe, but for now, what we're expecting is to just kind of continue the status quo.
Exactly.
Adam, is there anything you would like to add?
Yeah, that was the first piece, was that this is, that's not part of the deliberation. The second piece on it is just the funding capacity. I mean, that's always going to be one of the biggest things that we talk about. And with those two vacancies at the senior position and the CD specialist, we have the funding capacity in the on the CD side of the budget to maintain and extend this temporary employee through the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was answered, but so this isn't actually adding to head counts or anything like that. This is just filling currently open role.
It's continuing.
Correct.
Right,
Anyway.
right. And then, and then the other question I had was, I think I saw somewhere in here that it was funded through federal grants. Is that one of the federal grants that's currently held up? Do we know?
No.
No, it's not. Okay.
We've received information from HUD and for the lead program too, to just, at least for now, maintain the status quo, continue submitting expenditures until anything changes, so.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion?
And then, well, I guess
Go ahead.
just to make sure I'm clear, so we're extending the temporary position, that's what's before us now, and then potentially at some point filling a role that we have open.
We have a vacant position, right? And the thought is, if this funding continues, right, we have a grade 11 position that we could downgrade more appropriately to about an 8. But we need time. the employee needs time to decide if they want to continue here in a more traditional capacity, not fully remote. And we got to see what the federal funding is. So we have to play wait and see on that. But we're pretty confident that the status quo can continue right now.
Okay. That's all I got.
Okay, and we'll take a roll call, please.
Shorten,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Van Hoff,
Yes.
Traeger,
Yes.
Hendricks,
Yes.
Altough,
Yes.
Von Bergen.
Yes. Great. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for joining us, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Sarah, for your input. Much
Thank you,
appreciated. All right, so no old business. So Leo is here to give us an overview of the Mental Health Board. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And I know there's some new members, and I apologize. I know my executive assistant was trying to set up meetings with you, and I can't believe here we are almost April, and I have not met you formally, so I apologize for that. But happy to give you the overview that I was probably going to give you anyway, in person, so. Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dan. So again, I'm Leonetta Rizzi. I'm the Executive Director of the McHenry County Mental Health Board. And I'll just move on with our overview. Our board is a 9-member board, and we currently have Connie Machini, Ray Lapinus, Lindsay Keisman, Adam Carson, Christine Broom, Amy Rath, Carolyn Schofield, Linda Hoke, and John Reiner as our board members. And our staff is myself. I didn't change. Bridget Geenan is now her title has changed to Building Office and Operations Manager, because she's also more than our executive assistant. She's also managing the building, the tenants, the contracts. Melanie Duran is our Fiscal Operation Manager. Karen Frisk is our Compliance and Operations Manager. Vicki is our Contract Manager, again, managing all the contracts that we have at the Mental Health Board. We have 2 professionals focused on training, and that's Chris Doherty and Mariel Kindle. And then we have accounting assistant, and we have a compliance analyst that works with our compliance manager. And then we have an IGA for IT, and that is Joe Keenan is in that role. And then we also have an administrative assistant who manages the front desk area and all those responsibilities there, that I would love for those that haven't been at the Mental Health Board to give you a tour there at some point. Going back to the Mental Health Board, the Mental Health Board here started, John F. Kennedy had a big impact. He had a sister, Rosemary, who had intellectual developmental disabilities. And he instituted the Mental Health Act in 1963, which basically moved residents outside of institutions and into the community. So there was funding that was available back then in order to do that, to move residents out. But what happened is, through this Community Mental Health Act, in 1967, then Illinois adopted a House bill, it was earlier than that, adopted a House bill. In 1967 is when McHenry County, and we are the first county to have a mental health board in Illinois. Second came St. Clair County, and I think third was Kane County. So we were the first county in Illinois that this county board enacted a House bill. Well, House Bill 708 was from the state, and that's why mental health boards are called 708 boards. But the referendum did pass in 1967, and we were levied by property taxes. That's how the Community Mental Health Act worked. But in March of 24, voters elected to move us to sales tax. So we are now under sales tax and not the property tax. But still under the Community Mental Health Act, we are a special purpose unit of government. And we have a 9-member board, and also to enact all the responsibilities under the Community Mental Health Act. In fiscal year '25, our budget was approximately 10.8 million, it's a little less than that, dollars in client services, which was the levy for approximately 30 agencies and about 70 programs. We also have an agreement with distributing the opioid funds through 2038. And for fiscal year '25, that amount that we have allocated was $859,900 for the opioid dollars. So what do? We're consulting again with agencies, ensuring the appropriate delivery of the mental health services, especially that we allocate, and we do that in many ways. One, we have an extensive audit process that, the auditors, when they did an audit of our processes a few years back, stated that, it was a very high quality process that we have at the Mental Health Board. We also submit written plans for services, and again, that we do a 3-year plan and an annual report. We execute the programs and maintain those services. We review and evaluate for community mental health services in the community. Again, our main goal is for mental health, substance use treatment, and intellectual developmental disabilities. So those are the 3 areas that we fund programs throughout the county. And we do have the authority to hire staff, set wages, and set our own budget. Again, there's lots of mental health boards that have been in Illinois, and there's a lot, if you see over to the right there, south and east of us, that have been created on a township level. Again, they can be created on a county level, township level, municipality level. So we do have a lot of mental health boards throughout Illinois, and those that are starting up. Some of them are structured a little differently, with also having like 377 boards and so forth. But again, I'm part of the ACMI, which is our Association of Community Mental Health Authorities of Illinois, and we meet regularly, regarding best practices and issues across the state. And McHenry County is looked at because we are, the oldest mental health board. We've had policies set in place for years and years and years. So we are looked at across the state and benchmarked, and we assist other mental health boards with policies and procedures as needed. Our main mission is to lead and contract, for behavioral health, which that includes mental health and substance use services, and intellectual developmental disability services and treatments, for all people of McHenry County. Our vision, is to experience, we want people to experience that optimal health and really have that integrated care delivery model. We have values that we aspire to, and we also, have our strategic 3-year plan that we are working through initiatives on. And that plan is regarding access, also to enhancing our continuum, to increase awareness, because the community needs assessment. The last one we showed was that 1/3 of people in our county weren't aware of services. So our board at that point enacted that strategy to really increase awareness. And as you see, I try to do monthly articles in the paper. We're constantly doing radio spots. We're promoting our providers. So we really are trying to increase the awareness in the community. And again, to provide leadership for our area and advocacy efforts. So operations, what do we do to get all of this done? One of the pieces, and I'll go through our funding cycle a little bit further in a slide, but we do have our funding cycle and allocation contracts that we do annually. We also have what we're calling a mid-year allocation if we have some dollars that are available for our providers. And this year we've got a budget of about $300,000 that if providers are still needing money, the ones that we funded can come back to us for their fee-for-service programs if they're running short, and request that from the board. Again, we operate the board meetings, committee meetings, where the staff are also, doing the contract and the work plans, keeping up with the contract, making sure that the providers are meeting their contract needs throughout the year, their requirements. We also are part of CARF, which is an International Behavioral Health Network accreditation that we have. And Network Council is all our providers, our funded providers that meet monthly. And again, to align everybody with any collaboration needs, communication with the Mental Health Board on the contracts and our strategic initiatives and working forward together and meeting those initiatives. We have a quality management team. Again, that quality management team meetings are all the provider agencies, and they look at the quality management of those programs that we are funding and reporting out on those. We have intake coordinator meetings. Now, this one is open to everybody in McHenry County. What we found with the intake coordinators, again, it's part of access to care, that the intake coordinators at all the different agencies meet monthly, and they basically are learning about each other, so that when somebody presents at one agency, they're able to refer them anywhere else in the county. So we have what's called a no wrong door philosophy, that we don't want people to be turned away, that when somebody presents someplace, we want to make sure that they're given the proper information no matter who services them. So the intake coordinators is a vital role. It's people that are, doing the work at the front desk, and they are meeting monthly and, again, getting valuable information about the programs. We do clinical reviews when it's requested, so on tough cases, if providers have tough cases, they want to bring other providers together. We're initiating what's called a clinical review process on some of those tough cases. Again, releases of information and all of that need to be in order for that to occur. And then a big part is our compliance and audits and site visits. So all our funded providers have to go through audits, and they turn in monthly information, and besides that monthly and quarterly information that they turn in, we do audits on all our providers, ensuring that what we're funding is actually occurring and they're meeting their requirements. So
And that's when you also ensure that the services are being provided to McHenry County residents, correct?
Oh, we do that, yes, not only there, but we do that with the monthly reporting.
Thank you.
So yes. And then we have network training and public meeting spaces. So the network training is a huge asset to our community and also to the providers, that we're promoting evidence-based training throughout the network so that all the clinicians can really stay tuned to the best practices that are available. And we also, our building has public meeting spaces, so it's used by lots of people, the Boy Scouts. So we're very happy about having the public meeting spaces available as well. And then, the county board updates and presentations that we do. I know that there's going to be some upcoming presentations. We're going to be doing our annual report review, I believe, in May to the COW. I know there's going to be, in May also, we're going to be doing a finance presentation. So, and we do try to provide our quarterly outcomes. I believe that goes to the total board versus just this committee. So we are trying to keep the county board updated on everything. And again, fiscal steward and financial standards, we definitely are part of. As I talked about, our events, trainings, and community outreaches, we're just out there. We do what's called a Community Connection Summit now. We've changed the name. And that is a summit that I really would encourage all of you to attend. It's always in September. And we do, last year it was on the loneliness epidemic, and we had a great turnout. So again, they are planning this year's event, and that should be promoted shortly. We also host a quarterly meeting, and it's a virtual meeting between the schools and all the behavioral health professionals. And that has been a value add, between the schools and all the providers. And it's really helped both, but especially the schools in accessing services and knowing, who to reach out to. And also it helps us with creating our strategic plan and the needs and for the school professionals. We also do a World Trauma Day that's in October. Also encourage county board members to attend that. And we have a plethora of trainings. So if any of you are ever interested, they are located on our website, on our hot sheets that we promote. But last year we had over 50 annual clinical trainings that provided CEUs for providers. So again,
I was just going to ask you that. Thank you for saying that. So there are CEUs available.
oh yes,
Absolutely.
yes, there's
Wow.
yes,
So
there's
coming up.
and the trainings are free. So yes, we provide these CEUs. It's a huge value add for this county, for this network. So yes, they are available. Ongoing network and community trainings, again, that we promote, which is QPR, which is more related to suicide prevention, question, persuade, and refer. Many of you are familiar with mental health first aid. Again, these are all trainings we promote, and the trauma-informed care and nonviolent crisis intervention workshops. And again, we're on various social media, but also we try to do a lot of our promotions through what we call these weekly hot sheets that we send out. So if any of you want to be on the weekly hot sheets, I can definitely get you on there, but they have a lot of information about all our educational opportunities, as well as information regarding various support groups that agencies have, as well as openings. So agencies use these sheets a lot.
I would suggest, rather than all of us, if you find it important, send the hot sheets to our chair.
Yeah.
Tracy.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that would, and then she could disseminate it appropriate
Sure.
or whatever, but that would be, I think that would be
Sure,
appropriate.
I can do that.
How often do the hot sheets come out?
The weekly hot sheets come every Wednesday.
Okay. Okay. I'll probably reach out to
You would like them as well? Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'll give you.
She has your county one.
All right, not a problem. I would love to do that. And again, we attend a lot. I'm not going to go through all of these, but all the affiliated committees and task force that we're a part of, just so many that we are involved in. We helped create the, many of you know about the AOT grant that the 22nd Judicial received, and actually that came out of something that I facilitated early on, because it was part of our strategic initiative, was regarding assisted outpatient treatment. So we helped secure that grant through our grant writer. We do have a grant writer. That was some of the feedback the county board gave us last year. And that grant writer has done well. Again, that grant, that the 22nd, both grants that 22nd Judicial, our district received, were facilitated from our grant writers. So again, the AOT is something we're really interested in. I'm not sure with the recent cuts. I'm going to have to touch back if it's going to affect that AOT program. Right now we're trying, sorry I'm getting off on a tangent, but we are going to be assessing the impacts of some of those cuts that are having locally, and we're going to be reporting it to our board and obviously to this board as well. But again, we are involved in lots of meetings and task force. This is last year's funding, just to give you an idea of where our funding goes to. More than 50% of our funding goes to programs related to mental health. The other half of the funding, a majority of it goes to, 20% goes to intellectual developmental disabilities. That was last year, and it pretty much stays the same. They change, the percentages change a little, but and then about the same percent goes to, 17% went to substance use disorders last year, and then the rest of it goes to what we call co-occurring. Those that have programs that are dealing with both either mental health and substance use, or mental health and intellectual developmental disability. So we call those co-occurring disorders. So that's where majority of our funding goes to. Yes, ma'am.
It may be inappropriate, and if you cover it later, yell at me. Can you, when you're partnering agencies, the agencies that you provide funding for, Do you look at how much your funding is of their? And again, can you just kind of
Sure.
elaborate on what happens?
Sure, I can easily talk through that. We actually did an analysis, and again, we fund programs, and thank you for bringing that up, versus like full agencies. I mean, there are agencies that, most of the agencies we fund at about their total budget, the mental health board budget is about 2 or 3% of their budget. And it's programs, so these 2 or 3% though are programs that wouldn't exist without our funding. So, and I can kind of go through that a little bit further. There's some programs though that we fund, and I'll use NAMI as an example, that we fund at a higher level. And options and advocacy, we're funding them at higher levels, you know, more than 50% of their budget is our program. So there are agencies that we fund at a higher level, but most of the agencies, there are programs within the agencies that we fund that wouldn't exist without our support, if that helps.
It does, I just want to, it's not always the same, I mean, it's, yeah.
Yeah, and this slide, and again, please do not take it for what it more than it is, but if you think of the mental health board as county administration, and we are not even close to that, but if you think of it as that, in that county administration has departments that they're responsible for, because, and what we're responsible for are these programs that we have continued funding in the community that wouldn't exist. A lot of people think the mental health board has these one-time grants, and we do. Like, we'll have capital grants, and we have things, you know, that are one-time grants. But what we fund are these programs, that continued programs that wouldn't exist without our funding. And we look at it year over year. We look at their budgets. We, you know, again, the audit processes that we have to ensure that these programs are quality programs that we need to continue to fund. So because I think people aren't aware of that. And these are the services. So when you think about the programs and the services, these are basically the services from those programs that we fund. And I did bring, and I know I gave it to some of you last year, but or in November, but I did bring some information regarding what we funded this past year.
Thank you.
Thank you. So basically what I handed out is what we funded this past year, the dollar amounts, and it doesn't go into the programs all that specifically, but if you want more information, we can give you, but it gives you a good idea of the programs that we are currently funding today. And you'll see some are subsidized, you know, with other state and federal funding, but many are not. Some of these programs just rely on our support. So, you know, again, we have a budget. What I think it's next. Oh, it's not next, but I can go through our allocation process in a moment. But these are, again, the overall types of services that we fund in the community. So what's happened over the years, I won't go through this much more because the county board has had a lot of information on this, but what we have seen over the past is that there is an increased demand and increased costs, but our budget and our levy has decreased over the year. So the top line shows, you know, when you look at the red bar up on the top graph are what the amount of grants that came in at the dollar amount. And the blue line is what we budgeted for those grants. So as you see, you know, there's a little yellow arrow, and that arrow is having a bigger trajectory of a difference. So over the years, not only has, you know, our budget decreased over time, but there's been an increase in the demands that we've had that we haven't been able to meet.
And the cost of those services.
And the services, right. And we've lost a lot of services. over the years.
Due to duplication of service?
Pardon?
Are you talking about non-for-profits that are
Yes.
duplication of services, meaning a lot of them could have consolidated into one service, but you're finding duplication and that's why they went away?
No, they went away because of budget issues. Like we've had, family services, for example, was a huge mental health clinic in this community. And because of budget issues and the mental health board, I wasn't a part of that back then, but the mental health board tried to keep them afloat. But because of state cuts and budget cuts that I think we're gonna be seeing now, that the providers are gonna be facing with, that we're all gonna have to deal with, I think that we're gonna see the same thing that we saw then. And then there's been, so we've lost that. There's been gaps in the community because of that we've been trying to fill. And I think where we're headed, it's, you know, it's gonna be a challenging time for everybody because I think the providers are gonna be faced with some tough decisions coming up.
And I apologize. For me, knowing all of that, can you identify for us those programs that you fully fund that would go away as opposed to those that you contribute to help provide more services to the community?
You mean with the cuts that are being impacted now?
Right now, those programs that you fully fund. That's, I shouldn't say that might go away. I will interpret that. But any of those programs that you fully fund right now as opposed to those that you only contribute to the overall service provision.
Yeah, we could give you a list of that.
I would appreciate that and
Okay.
obviously share with the committee, but I would like that.
Yeah, that'd be good. I agree.
We always hear about the gaps and I guess I'm interested to know what those gaps
Okay.
are.
Yeah, we could easily. And the other piece is, right now we're asking our providers to tell us and the board the impacts of what's happening on a federal level, the state level, because there are going to be some programs and some agencies. I mean, we have some of our agencies that are 80% funded by Medicaid. So if there's huge cuts in Medicaid, we might see those agencies totally close. So we're asking for that feedback, but I could easily give you that list. I'll follow up.
That will help us as we evaluate and anything else that you learn thereafter.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Thanks.
So again, I think you all know that we're just at the lowest, I don't know if you know, years-wise, but we are at the lowest revenue today than we've ever been in years. So our funding process, just to give you an idea of our funding process, it does start in June. So the providers or anyone in the community have the availability of putting in an application from June until the end of July. And at that point, we review all the applications, the staff reviews. We had over 103 applications last year. I spent not only my time during the week, but I spent every single weekend, at least 8 hours, Saturday and Sunday, reviewing applications so that our board has all the information they need to go into Founded. We have it in a Founded system, which is our grant system. So all the applications get put into there. So the board then reviews all the applications from September through October, where they make their decisions, final decisions in October. And that's why a lot of people ask, well, why do you do your budget so early? Our board approves our budget in May so that we know what the NOFA is going to be for the providers to send out in June. So that's why our process is the way it is. And then again, we bring it, in November is when we do all the work plans. It's very busy. We meet with all the providers, do all the work plans for the contracts, get the contracts get going, make sure that all the requirements for the contracts everyone agrees with. So November is also a very busy month to start for the December 1 contract process. And that's our allocation process. The other thing, again, that we try to promote is just navigation resources. We have our website, which has our directory of services throughout the county. We also have what's called the McHelp app, and we're really proud of this app. We try to promote it in the schools. The McHelp app is an app that has a text feature, so a lot of teens do use the feature in texting if they have any issues. We also promote the National 988 line, which I'm not sure where that's going to be at in the future, since that's part of SAMHSA. But 988 is a national crisis line, and many, like we did here in McHenry County, got rid of our local crisis lines because we had a national crisis line. So again, we have to see what the future of that's going to be. But for service navigation, we are promoting a lot of things. A Way Out has a substance use line that we also promote, and then obviously 211 is the general information referral line. Youth and Family Center has service navigation for bilingual that we also promote, and Service Inc. is really the service navigation. They're kind of the center point of access for intellectual developmental disability services and helping the community navigate through that. And then we love partnering with the People in Need Forum that we do in January, which is a great event. So again, we do a lot of what we call community navigation. The Mental Health Board gets a lot of calls, especially since we don't have a local crisis line anymore. But we get a lot of calls at the Mental Health Board regarding where to go for services from the community. And that's it. Again, we have some things in the future that we are going to be part of. We'll be coming to the COW in May, and we're going to be presenting at the Finance Committee meeting on May 8th. So I would encourage any of the members here who are not part of finance to also, attend that meeting as well. And May 8th happens to be the same day as our town hall. So I would love for all of you to come to our town. I'll give this to Kathy, and maybe she can also send or put this out at the front in administration, because I gave a lot of copies. So we're trying to promote in the community for everybody to come to our town hall. Our town hall is a yearly event that we host, and the board facilitates it. This year, the feedback was, what we normally do at our town hall is separate out the 3 disabilities: mental health, intellectual developmental disabilities, and substance use disorders into different rooms. And the board facilitates those groups and those sessions in those rooms. And there was a request this year to have everybody in one room, that everybody wanted to be in one room. So we're gonna try it. It's gonna be a big town hall. We're all gonna be in one room, and we're hoping it doesn't, there's some people that don't like large crowds and don't like to talk in large crowds. So we're hoping it doesn't impede on that, because the smaller rooms were nice, but we're gonna try the one big room and see what we get. But I would really love county board members to be a part of that. We really try to encourage the community, so if you can, encourage your constituents, if you can put it out there on your sites and encourage your constituents to come, because we really want it's really for the community. And that's what we want to attend.
Twofold. Maybe you do that big meeting and you segregate the time and say, we're going to use the first hour for this, the second hour for this, and then maybe you'll get more participation if they know what they're just thinking of.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's all over the spectrum, right? I mean, how do you?
And that's what they
focus on
wanted, I
conversation?
guess. People
Really?
wanted to hear.
Right, but I'm just saying maybe you limit topic for certain times, as opposed to now I'm going to talk about this, because otherwise you'll be all over. Question, can you give us a little insight, maybe not, as you evaluate applications, how do you prioritize where you're going to invest your dollars? What grant applications?
Sure.
How does that kind of work with the board, and what your recommendations are?
Sure, it goes with our strategic plan. So our strategic plan priorities, those that fit the strategic plan. And we have a rubric. So our rubric, follows, and we have a scoring system in that rubric that prioritizes it based on the quality of those grants. But a lot of it is prioritizing regarding our strategic plan priorities too. So you'll see if you ever go through, and I could share it at any point, I would love to share our application process and found it if you're interested. And you know, I can go through each of the application, but the questions are, you know, we have questions that are tied. We ask them, how is this, you know, related to our strategic plan? You know, so we do try to tie it back to our strategic plan, which is the priority.
And we get a copy of that strategic plan regularly, don't we?
Yes, yes, and it's also
Just
located,
saying.
it's also located on our website, our strategic plan and all our annual reports. Yes, I've sent them out. I think I've given them to you when we, so right now we are in the process, we're in the middle of our strategic plan, which ends in 2026. So next, at the end of this year and all of next year, we're gonna be focusing on, as you all are doing, the next strategic plan. So, you know, our board development day next February, they'll be identifying the key priorities that we're gonna be wanting to focus on.
Appreciate that, thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Great, yeah, we'll open up to questions. Mr. Hendricks.
Tracy.
Oh, sorry, I can't see you up there.
You can go first.
You want to go first, Mr. Shorten?
Sure. And I apologize if this was asked earlier. I had a little bit of a connection issue, but can we go back to the slide that shows the delta between funding and requests?
Sure.
Can you see it, Michael?
I can. So I can ask the question without seeing it. So is the request versus funding, are the requests that are shown there, are those all requests or just requests from existing or pre-approved providers?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I didn't understand.
I didn't hear you.
You're breaking up a little bit.
All right, hold on. All right, is this any better?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the delta between the request and the funding, is that delta representative of requests from agencies that had received approvals or funding in previous years? Or is that the request line request both previously funded and new organizations coming in?
Yes, the latter. It's all the funding. Those are all the funding requests that came in.
Okay.
And as you know, we don't, you know, we typically don't fund everything that comes in. But that is all the requests versus, but you know, we do also estimate, and I've reported to the board, I think I did in November, that you know, the delta between what we weren't able to fund that we probably could have funded versus, I always report that to public health, and I did that in November, versus what we, you know, versus this delta. But this delta is showing you all the requests that have come in and our levy budget.
Does that also include your grant?
Wait, go ahead,
sorry,
Michael.
yeah.
I'm sorry, he's got more.
You got more, Mike.
So the red really represents organizations that can come forward with programs that they're asking for support. It's not necessarily an indication of overall need in the community. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, it would be, that would be a fair statement to make. It would be needs that people are seeing in the community that are applying for us for funding.
Okay. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Do you have I know that we do on senior services, do you have a standard that says that you don't fund first-time programs? Or do you just look at every single request and determine what kind of fits the strategic plan and then go forward? I mean, we choose not to invest in something that is just a startup because we
Right.
don't know. Yeah.
Same here, same
Okay,
here. They
that's-
have to be,
I thought.
part of the criteria is it's 2 or 3 years that they have to be in business. The other thing is for any new requests that come in, I instituted a process where the management team and us meet with new requests before they submit it, because sometimes we have found that, it doesn't meet the criteria. It doesn't, so why invest all that time in doing that work when, and they still could choose to, it's their prerogative, but we have this meeting and we just try to assess, is this something that meets the criteria? And we from feedback we've received from new applications is that they appreciate guidance. We don't tell them what, but we help them with a little bit of technical guidance with the application process. So we do meet with new applicants.
Appreciate it, thank you. I'm sorry, Deanna.
So your requested amount, is that also part and parcel of grants that you're written? Or do grants go above and beyond that requested amount?
I don't know if I understand your question.
So your requested amount, is that including the grants that you've initiated?
The requested amount is from the applicants,
Yeah,
not from the mental health board.
Okay, so the requested amount is solely based on application?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
During the application process, you said there was like a software system that.
Yeah, we have a
you
software
use.
system called Founded.
Okay, so.
And the Founded system is where the applicants apply online, have all the questions, they upload all their documents, which includes a budget. So that's the other thing, thank you for bringing that up. I wanted to talk about that. So part of the application process is they include a budget. So their budget shows, so let's say that they're applying for a specific program. In that program, we ask what are all the funding, all the fees that others are supporting in that program, if any. So that we're able to see all of that and the total budget for that program. So we include, a lot of things in the budget process, in the application process.
Do board members also have access?
Absolutely, they can go into Founded. So what we try to do is we do our rubric, we do all the, the staff spends a lot of that time in August putting all the feedback in about what we believe the staff recommendations for these programs are, so that when the board goes in, they see all of our feedback, they see all the documents, they have access to everything. We also provide, for those that, some people don't like to work on the computer, we provide a hard copy manual that has the budget, the programs, so the board can review manuals at that level too.
Nice. I know senior services and.
We don't provide paper.
CDBG is also, working to have board members and commissioners review that. I was trying to save you a couple hours in June and July, but.
And for some reason, and I don't know what it was, but the board used to have just a limited view to Founded, and it didn't make sense to me. So I said, open it up. They should be seeing everything that we're seeing and seeing all our comments and seeing everything. So the board has total access to, and should have total access to the application process.
Great. You have any other questions, Mr. Hendricks?
I have one. Can you go back to the bar graph?
Sure.
So I guess so the red bar in the top graph, requests, right? And then blue is the actual funding that's been allocated. So I guess I have two questions. One is, it looks like, I know you noted lowest revenue in over 20 years, but it looks like the budgeted amount that was actually allocated is higher than it was in some previous years at least, right?
I'm sorry, your question?
In the bottom graph,
Uh-huh.
you noted lowest revenue in over 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
But then it doesn't really, it just doesn't make sense to me based on the top graph. The blue bar, if that's the amount that was budgeted out to programs,
Uh-huh.
why does it?
I'm sorry.
No,
Sorry,
you're good,
I
but
couldn't click on the blue bar.
why is the actual budgeted amount higher than?
Look at 23, Leo. If you look at 23, it looks like the mental health board budgeted less money than we did in 2025. And yet on the lower bar graph, the red, you're saying that the 25 was the lowest amount of revenues.
Right.
So I get what Eric is saying, right?
Yeah,
That it,
like, was it just from like outside funding? Was it
Okay.
from?
So you're saying which bar? I'm
So-
sorry.
look at 2023.
Okay,
And
20.
it looks like that you actually allocated less money in 23 than we did in 25.
Well, actually 22.
Oh, 22 is it? I'm
but
sorry.
No, 23, 22, 21.
Okay.
Several years.
Okay, so Eric is saying that in okay, I'm just trying to read this myself. So in fiscal year 21, let's take that one. There was 9,483,940,000 allocated. So you're saying that is different than?
Well, I guess why, it just doesn't jive up to me that we'd have the lowest revenue in over 20 years. And yet it looks like for the last 3 years, maybe it's been trending up in the amount that's actually been spent on programs. Am I wrong?
I think we have to be looking at the actual numbers.
Right.
Instead of
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
what
we
you're
are-
doing.
yeah,
Look
so-
at what was the amount
Right.
each year.
Right.
And those bars don't lie when you do
Okay,
that.
so these
You know,
bars
so if
we're
you look
also
below-
using-
And at the bars below,
Right,
that number's not gonna lie.
right.
So you can look at the amount.
Yeah, I'm not asking about that, just why does it appear to be different? I think the question is
I know
why.
Well,
The
we
confusion may be in that top graph, but
Yeah.
the bottom graph, your statement, the lowest revenue in over 20 years
Well,
is true.
not my statement.
Right, and again, you have to remember, we also use fund balance with the current levy. So we are trying, especially we're doing it this year, to not make cuts to our providers. So in order for us not to make cuts, we are using our fund balance, and that's what we're planning. You'll see in our presentation that we're doing in May to the Finance Committee, that, we're gonna continue
That
to
makes
use
sense.
our fund balance
Yeah.
so that we're not making cuts to the providers.
I know it's difficult moving forward, but are the opioid settlement amounts reflected?
No,
In
they're not
those?
reflected there.
Grants.
They're not.
There's not
that
a
was-
lot of money
That
that's
was basically the levy.
Do you get that, Eric? Do you understand?
Yeah.
That was
The
the-
levy only is the amount.
That's only the
That was the
levy.
levy
Yeah.
dollars.
And then I just do have
Go
I just have one last follow-up. Going to the bottom bar graph, there, and maybe I'm just misunderstood, but was it, when when the county approved the referendum, we passed the sales tax, there was also that year, was it fiscal year 2024 or fiscal year 2025 when there was both the property levy as well as the 6 months of the sales tax included?
24.
24, and is that included in the graph, or that's just property levy compared to sales tax for 25?
Yes,
Okay,
it's just that. It's not the budget.
gotcha.
Yeah, it's just that. And again, so you'll see it. I would really love for those of you that aren't on the Finance Committee to attend the Finance Committee on the 8th. We're going to be presenting more of the finances at that time.
So, sorry, one last question. Where do we rank in terms of like funding or levy compared to like other county 708 boards?
Good question.
Like are we in the middle, near the bottom, near the
Yeah,
top?
good question. I think we were I think we were pretty much in the middle as other mental health boards are. You know, Winnebago though, I mean, right now, there's not many other mental health boards on sales tax. Winnebago County, which has less of a population than we are is on a 0.5% sales tax. You know, we're at 0.25%, so they're definitely higher than we are at. But there's not other mental health boards now that are on sales tax besides Winnebago.
Okay, but we're in the middle compared to the other county 708s? Okay.
Yeah. And you know, some of them are municipalities, so it's really hard to
Compare apples to apples, it's not.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
I wasn't.
no, I just wasn't,
County.
I was just saying county, but,
Yeah.
so we're in the middle for all of them.
I would think so. I have my association meeting next week, and that would be a really good question for us to benchmark on, because I don't think we've benchmarked with that.
Okay.
I just wanted to comment.
Huh? I'm sorry, what was the
It
question?
could be reviewed on a per capita basis, was my comment.
Ms. Van Hoff?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. Thank you for coming and explaining everything. I really like that when we look at the percentages of how the awards go, that you're being true to the mission of the 708 board, and that the majority of the money goes to mental health, and after that, intellectual and developmental disabilities, and then substance at the very bottom, because when the 708 board was established, we didn't have that kind of issue with substance. I mean, there were always problems, but not to the extent that we are experiencing now. So I congratulate you. I'm really pleased that we're sticking true to that, with the biggest portion of that going to mental health.
Yes, yes.
I mean, you could recognize a co-occurring, so that is more of a acknowledgement that you have co-occurring disabilities simultaneous with substance. It's just identifying it differently at this time. Correct.
Your question, I'm sorry, there is co-occurring.
Correct. And so we're identifying it in a different way, but than we did in the past. So you would have co-occurring disabilities, you just didn't identify it like that previously. So that's why you might see comorbidity with, you know, dual diagnoses with substance and mental health.
That may be true, but I think when we look at mental health, we can clearly draw the line of what is mental health and what is intellectual and developmental disabilities.
I'm speaking about substance abuse.
Well, that's in a category by itself. So I think it's pretty distinct in my mind. I don't see it as being, you know, much co-occurrence. Of course, you can see it, but I think in the bigger picture, we can clearly look at what is mental health and what is developmental.
I think it's how you diagnose it, and when the diagnoses are coming from practitioners with co-occurring, you could look at it like that. So.
Okay, do we have any other discussion, questions? Thank you, Leanna, for
Thank
for
you,
coming.
thank you. And I
very
would
much.
love if anyone wants to ever attend one of our board meetings or come to the mental health board, please do so. And I will follow up on these items regarding the hot sheets and regarding the list of services.
Could we also get, I'm not sure if we did get a copy of your presentation.
I
but
just
there's-
saved PDF on here.
Great, thank you. There's a lot of great reference.
And if you can't find it,
material in there.
Kathy she knows where to find me.
Okay.
Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, reports. Thank you for sticking with us, Sarah. If you'd like to join us at the table.
And you're back.
And the back, I was just about to say that. So I sent, thank you for this opportunity. I sent a memo regarding the consolidated plan and just wanted to take a few minutes of your time to just provide a little bit more detail about what we've been working on regarding that. So community development has been working on the 2025 to 2029 consolidated plan. And just kind of as a reminder, for the community development block grant and the home, which we call CDBG. CDBG can fund projects that include infrastructure, public facilities, public services, and economic development. And average for the county in entitlement funds every year is around $1.4 million. And as Tracy knows, we're about to go into those deliberations. Home supports projects that.
Sarah, where does the 1.4 come from? Are those federal?
Federal.
And the term entitlement means McHenry County is gonna get it every year.
Yes.
And
Correct.
Thank you.
we're not competing for it. The federal government is trusting us that we've got a good history of distribution, and we're gonna get it every year. So, like it implies.
Thank you.
Although last year we did get a little less than what
We anticipated.
we anticipated, so that was a challenge.
And then the home funds different projects than CDBG, so new construction, housing rehabilitation, subsidy buy-downs, tenant-based rental assistance, things like that. Average, again, is around $675 in entitlement funds to the county annually. Just want to do that overview because that's, two of the largest entitlement fundings that we receive. So because the money is from the federal government, HUD obviously has requirements of us on reporting and what we have to submit. So the consolidated plan is one of those. It is a requirement. And it has to be submitted to HUD every 5 years. So the upcoming plan is going to be due to HUD by August. And the overall goal is to identify what types of local projects will be funded over the next 5 years based on two things essentially, community needs and then a thorough market analysis that we have to do as part of the plan. So community needs, how are we addressing that?
Sarah, a little elaboration. How much time would you say is spent on the actual management of those grant dollars by staff over the years? Yeah, I know. Just guess. 2, 10, yeah.
I mean, that's our major.
It's one of my funky things. We lose sight of the fact that when we get grant dollars that have all of these requirements attached to it, I'm talking to my new people, that there is a huge amount of hours spent by staff to administer and then report back to that entity that we're utilizing the monies appropriately. I don't want that to get lost in, oh yay, we got money, because it does. It's a lot. So thank you. I apologize. I didn't mean that.
And just to give like an example, we're getting ready to do the CDBG and home April 8th and 9th, and there's about 4.6 million against the 1.4 in requests, and then there's about 1.6 million in requests for home against the 675. So
thank
we
you.
process all those applications too.
And we do get to keep a certain amount for administrative costs, and that's essentially how the department is funded, almost entirely.
Entirely.
Yeah.
Good questions. So for the community needs, we're addressing that in a couple of different ways. Right now, we have the stakeholder and community surveys that are available online through the county website and social media. Just to give you a little feedback on that, to date, we've received 124 community surveys and 37 stakeholder surveys. So we're, gathering information that way. Preliminary, and again, we'll go through them once it closes on April 30th, have been identified as the need for affordable housing, transportation, improvements of transportation, and then improved public services. So that's included a wide array of different things such as addressing the homeless population, and then improved childcare, things like that.
When we review this, is there a way, I'm talking to you too, Peter. Is there a way for us to find out geographically where the community surveys come from? I think it makes a difference,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Could we, could that be provided?
Sure. Yes.
We have a wacky county and it's not the same throughout.
Right. And then just as a reminder, those do close on the 30th, so that's when we'll be going through them very thoroughly. But if you have anyone who you feel, should participate, please encourage that. So we're open to all the feedback. Another way that we're addressing community needs is by having in-person meetings with the municipalities. So far, we've met with Fox River Grove, Cary, Marengo, McHenry, Lake in the Hills, Woodstock, Harvard, and Johnsburg. These have all been in person, and these will be ongoing. But we've received a lot of different feedback from the administrators there as well. It was kind of interesting to see the different interactions and what they're asking for. So like Marengo and Harvard was like, we'll take the funding, please, anything you can do to help, where others were like, well, if it's not going to be more large scale. So it was just interesting to see the difference. For the market analysis, this part of the consolidated plan is very data centric. The analysis of impediments to identify barriers to the fair housing in the county has already been completed, and that is part of the consolidated plan, and I believe everyone's been given a copy of that. But this just is some of the data that we'll be collecting for the market analysis. It's certainly not limited to this. There's a list, I think it's about this long. But it includes like the number of housing units, the cost of housing, the condition, number of public and assisted housing units, reports on the homeless facilities in the community, and then special needs facilities and services as well. So in going through the data for the new plan, we did see that some of the data in the current plan was inconsistent. That data does come from HUD, so just kind of letting the committee know that, moving forward, we will be cross-referencing, utilizing multiple people on the team, multiple sources. And the team now is, it really is a team that's seasoned for this data analysis. So moving forward for the new plan, we'll be doing that as well. And then just kind of as an aside, I know that this is something that, the county's talked about before, like how do we get that entitlement increase? And so it doesn't really have to do with the consolidated plan necessarily, but in analyzing some of this data, and I know Adam's going to talk to you about it too, Pam, but we has started another discussion. How do we potentially increase the entitlement funding for the county? Because that's all based on data that HUD collects, and there's a long, complicated calculation that they do, and so we're starting to research what that looks like. But we can use some of the data that we're gathering for the consolidated plan to potentially say, hey, why has, there's been changes in McHenry County over the years. Some of this goes back to like even 1995, but yet, for CDBG, the line's almost completely straight. So has HUD been factoring in unemployment rates, population increases, things like that along the way? So that's kind of, it's not part of the consolidated plan, but it's something else that we're also looking at in addition to the consolidated plan. So just so you know, we're on that too. Any questions or comments?
Thank you.
Nice update, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Shorten, did you have any questions?
I do not, thank you.
Okay.
Can I make one minor correction of myself? You said Sarah's department completely federally funded, and I said yes. There's one exception. Not related to CDBG and home, but they also do the senior service grants. That's a levy that the state allows us to do, our voters said, please do it. The state does not allow us to use any levy dollars to administer the program, so we do have roughly $20,000 in general fund to support the staffing of senior services.
Okay, thank you for that.
Other than that,
clarification.
it's all.
They do so much that, yeah. Okay, well, that brings us to,
And I don't
Yeah.
know, again, I repeat myself, I apologize, but everybody does understand that they report to public health because as chair, Tracy also is chair of the Community Development Grant Distribution Board, right? So that's just part of.
and Larry Smith is
The other board member.
the other board member. And then the rest of the commission is made up of local stakeholders, municipal, yeah.
Community.
Yep.
not for-
Yeah.
I just didn't know if you guys knew.
You look like you had something to add. No? Okay.
That's good. I like to talk, but no, I like.
Okay, then we will move on to future topics. We have a number of presentations, I think, coming forward, so I think we'll go with that unless anybody has any desire to add to our list of future presentations. Okay, seeing none, and no.
Just generally on future topics, I think we want to keep our eye on federal funding. We've heard in a few different arenas today. You know, we were with, I was out at Valley High twice yesterday, talking with Tom about Medicaid. We'll have a discussion at Valley High tomorrow. It's going to take a while for that all to shake out, but it's just something we're keeping our eyes on. So I think that probably could almost be a standing agenda item for the commissioners.
Okay.
I guess, roughly how much were we expecting?
Well,
or that had been allocated and now is withdrawn?
For Valley High?
No, just for the federal grants in general. I'm reading the newsletter, it's like 125 million, but obviously not us.
I've not read what Melissa sent out.
Okay.
Right? But I think she articulated it wasn't, at this point, real significant on our Board of Health budget.
That's what I wanted you guys to know, is it's not gonna impact what we've done in our general.
Some of it is almost like, it's a residual kind of impact that we may or may not have to be addressing, but yeah. And Medicaid, we don't know yet, but at Valley High, we're roughly 60% Medicaid residents, but there's another layer there because Medicaid cuts will go to the state. The state is going to make a decision in some parts about how that is distributed to locals and in what areas. So, it's going to take a while.
I think that is a good idea to, going forward, to monitor those things. Okay, seeing no executive session, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Ms. Altough, seconded by Ms. Van Hoff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.